Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paddock. My name is Henrik,
And I'm Sierra.
and now we are going to discuss a much more fun weekend, a very fun weekend, a very wet weekend at that. Much more to play for, and it's kind of that's the F2 weekend at Spa. Immediate thoughts on that?
Um, Heartbreaking,
Yeah.
wet.
Very wet. When you say that, when you say that, it kind of reminds me of Austria, 2022 and the F2 season where Richard Verschoor was disqualified. I'm not sure which race that was, but Richard Verschoor was disqualified.
Poor
Uh,
Richard.
Jehan
Too
Dro
many, too many DQs
Yeah,
happening.
too many
Not,
DSQs. Poor fellow. He was DSQ'd. Jehan Darwala had a 20-second penalty, and Dennis Hager goes on to win.
yep,
Kind of reminds me of that in a way, because the quali session starts off with Aron taking pole, so
yep,
Paul Aron, in the last 5 minutes of the session.
yep. Definitely helps his, at the time, helped his standings. Definitely
Yeah.
getting the point, closing the gap a little bit. Definitely promising for at least the feature race. The sprint, especially because Saturday was definitely always going to be wet, made it seem like he could maybe make up places, but definitely more was more aiming for the feature race to make some headway
Mm.
in that championship.
Yeah. But what was quite fun about that is that the feature race almost didn't happen. So
You mean the sprint?
I know, yeah, the sprint. Sorry, sprint.
It's all right.
Sorry about that. The
We've
sprint
watched a
race
lot of racing
almost.
this weekend. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Moving on, the sprint race almost didn't happen due
What was the
to a small tsunami at Spa
I
when.
mean, they delayed it. They tried. They were like, okay, let's just push it back. We'll have There's a pocket of window, we should be good. And they did. They were able to push it back. We got a standing start. We got going. Um, we did lose. I forget. Was it Pepe? Yep. I know he stopped. I know the red flag came out. At Once the
Yes,
red flag came out, you weren't gonna get any more running.
and the red flag was on lap 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't racing for very long.
No, we got 8 laps of racing.
We got good 8 laps of racing. I mean, Antonelli made some amazing moves in the rain,
Mm,
definitely showing more confidence in that Prima. Uh
mm.
Even Behrman getting up out of 14th, making some big moves as well. Real shame for both of them because I think they could have gotten Antonelli might have been able to get up to the front. And for Behrman, definitely getting some much needed points, even though he's very much, I would say, out of championship contention at this point. But
Well, he is also F1 bound, so that's kind of
yeah.
the whole idea behind that.
So he's not too upset because he's not fighting. He doesn't definitely ha he has a seat secured in F1, so doesn't have to really worry about that part. But definitely wants to try and do his best in F2. I don't think he wants to leave it on the season he's having.
Definitely not. Well, one would think that he would perform better now than he did last season, seeing as he was a rookie coming up from F3, but no, it was vice versa.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Victor Martins. Both of them having Victor Martins being rookie of the year year, followed by Behrman. Both were very promising going into this season. You could say maybe Behrman was more due to Prima, especially in the beginning of the season, not being their car not being on par, not fully uh getting around the new configuration of it. But both have had issues with reliability. Of course,
Mm.
Victor Martins and Ollie Behrman crashed today. Um,
Well,
Behrman
when you
tried to,
say today, is that's on Sunday, so.
Yeah, for the main race.
Mm. But going back to quali, Marta also had reliability issues in quali, so he started in P22, which is the last uh, before the pit lane. So that was kind of a bad weekend for him. And Paul Aron had a penalty to serve for the sprint race. So we started P20 in that race despite taking pole position.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I saw that. I was like, and I couldn't find anything. So I was like, what is happening? Why is he in 20th? That explains it.
Mm. But we aren't sure what the penalty was for.
So if one of you know, feel free to drop it on our socials, or we do have an email that you can always send us questions or want to send any info for that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
but
then this
going
is probably a good time to mention that we also have a native fan inbox that I have access to. It's a clickable link to which you can send your thoughts. I've named it the pit lane, so if you see that, just click there and send thoughts or questions or anything like that. That way, and I'll read it and make a decision on whether it's coming with or not.
Moving on to our feature race, we were already discussing it. Of course, at the end of the day, Isaac Hadjar does take P1 at the end, so he is firmly in the championship lead. Um, at this point, I think it is his to lose. Although Gabriel Bortoleto, I might have butchered that. I apologize. Does take second in the championship now, over Paul Aaron with that P2 finish.
Mm,
Um, Paul Aaron not having the pace maybe has to do with the technical issue that he did have towards the end of the race. Really a shame for him. He was on pole. High Tech did do a really good try to take that strategy, getting him
mm.
back out first, but I don't know if it was I assume it was the car that had the issue in terms of pace because he dropped off the top, especially after Bortoleto got through, dropped down to like 6 seconds behind them.
And that's quite a lot considering that the average is zero point 0.5. But for him to drop like a pebble on the last lap is it's not very like him to do. He had a very good season before Silverstone, and then at Silverstone he started going a little downhill. He didn't get a podium at Silverstone, and the same goes for Hungary last time out. Uh, and the same, of course, goes for Spa, which was a shame for him.
Definitely not out of the race, especially the F2 cars seem to be a little bit more unreliable. Um,
Wait, what were you meaning to say?
I in terms of like the championship, Isaac is now 165, Gabriel Bortoletto's at 129, and Paul Aaron is at 124. It's not impossible for Aaron and Bortoleto to be out of the championship race at this point. Um, Especially because I feel
No?
like these cars are a little bit more unreliable. There are a lot more DNFs. Um, and it's still we still have a 6 more races to go. So, I
Yep.
mean, it's not the end of the world for them, but definitely not a position that either Bortoleto or Aaron want to be at this point.
No, no, not at all. And I think that played into Bortoletto's hands because he started in P2 for the feature and P8 for the sprint. So he didn't really get any points in the sprint race because half points were given out. And I think that that penalty that Aaron got played into Bartoletto's hands. For that reason, if Aaron had started on reverse, well, if he had started on in the grid box who was supposed to start in, he would have started P10 for the sprint race. So I think that was the deciding factor in that regard.
Yeah. Just some other things we made note. He mentioned it after his crash with Behrman. Of course, not his fault at all. Pepe Marti. He said it. I feel like it's kind of true.
Mm.
This season is not his season. He's been very unlucky. Of course, didn't finish the sprint on Saturday, and then unfortunately had a crash this Sunday.
Which
Um,
caused him to retire both times,
yep.
ironically.
Is could we say he's the Charles Leclerc of F2 this season with being so
Yeah,
unlucky?
yeah, he is being very unlucky in terms of retirements. He tends to retire whenever there is a good points paying position at stake. In much the same regard as, say, Charles Leclerc or or even the Alpines in F1 at this point.
Alpine is its own
Thing, yeah.
thing.
Alpine has a very strong presence in the feeder series world, so we will get back to them.
Yep.
I think the strongest competitor they have in their academy is probably Jack Doohan at this point in time.
I mean, I wouldn't count out Victor Martins. It's just this season has not been going well.
Mm,
His rookies, he did win Rookie of the Year. Like he was what, second in the standings last year? No, he was
no,
third. He
third or fourth, yeah.
so it's not he Victor Martins is um a very good driver. I would say I lied. Victor Martins was in fifth. Third was Jack Doohan.
Another Alpine affiliated driver. So,
Yep. I mean, I understand why Alpine was going with if they're gonna go with a junior driver, it'd be Jack. He's been up in the F1, but I still say that Victor Martins, especially next year, I see him still being in F2 next year.
mhm.
Um, should hopefully have a bounce back year. He will have depending on who comes up from F3 and who's still in there when it comes to who's keeping their seat in F2. Um, I see him having a better year and hopefully a better end of the year for this, but unfortunately just not not his not his year,
Mm.
not his first half of the year. He does have
No.
a race win, but
Yes, he has a race win to his name in Hungary or something
so
like that.
yes. Another thing that we may note, we Prima will have a 5 place group penalty for both Antonelli and Behrman. Behrman for the crash with Pepe in turn one, and then Antonelli was because there was still dry ice in his car, which was the technical infringement.
Ah,
I can see, I get Antonelli's, I get that. Behrman's maybe a little harsh, just because
uh, yeah, that
he
was.
he didn't see Pepe. Pepe was the third car over. He was trying to take over Zane Maloney and just mistimed it. But I'm not the FIA. I'm not the stewards. They can make their own decision.
Yeah, but the stewards have made some questionable decisions in the past, so I think this is one of those cases where they make a decision and it doesn't play into people's hands very well.
No.
But the only person that we know is F1 bound is Oli Behrman,
Yeah.
of course, with Haas for next season. I think the reason being is that he had a very good rookie campaign last year, and he is Ferrari affiliated, which is a benefit for both Haas and Ferrari. Haas because they are a very young team. It's not funded to a great extent, so they need all the discounts they can get. And if you have a Ferrari driver in one of your seats at Haas, you get a power unit discount from Ferrari. So that's
You hope at least.
well,
It's probably in the contract
yeah, yes, I remember
in the
that's
negotiation terms.
yeah.
Um,
I remember that's the reason why they took in Mick Schumacher to begin with.
I mean, I think Mick also had promise. Like we can discuss that at a different point of Mick Schumacher and his time at Haas. Uh, but
Yeah, that is
uh,
a whole
I'll
different thing. But
Yes.
yeah.
Ollie definitely secured his seat off of strong races from last season, but then
Mm,
also his race in Jeddah this season, which you ask him, he gets pole in F2,
mm.
gets called up to F3 because of
F1,
Carlos. Yeah,
he gets
called
the
up to
call
F
up.
gets called
Uh,
up for FP3 for F1
mm,
because Carlos unfortunately did get appendicitis, but still will be a very interesting prospect for next season. Here's hoping
yes,
he can also have a better second half of the season after this, but we shall
absolutely.
wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully he won't get killed by Ocon next season. So
We will see. We will have to definitely a point of discussion to have there, but definitely a a time will tell for what will happen. I
yeah,
mean, he did, I think he was on Instagram Live earlier this week
yeah,
answering
on
some
Thursday on
questions.
the F2 Instagram
Yep.
channel.
And somebody asked him if he was excited for being teammates with Ocon, and his first thing is, I just want to be best friends with him. So I'm like,
Yeah.
he's, I'm really hoping, but we shall wait and see.
Yeah, the way I know Esteban Ocon, that's probably the sensible answer to give. Esteban Ocon is a teammate killer in every sense of the word. He could have killed Pierre Gasly at Silverstone, I believe, if he had got his way. Of course, they have a story about them.
We can talk more about that when we discuss F1 this weekend.
Yeah,
Um, but definitely a interesting prospect
absolutely.
for next season for Haas.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
think
And an interesting prospect for Ferrari as well in the future seasons after the new regulations.
if we're looking at the grid at right now, especially after this race, with the only one confirmed is Ollie Behrman for
Mm,
F1. You could say you can make a strong case, especially after that sprint with just the composure he showed in the rain and the weather was Antonelli. He probably still is that top prospect for Mercedes. So I could see maybe them getting, depending, maybe even after the summer break, going into Monza, him getting announced for that seat. Um, but I could also see Merck waiting till the very end of that season
mm.
to decide who they want in the car. The other one that I could say maybe making the jump up to F1 is Isaac Hadjar, just because we don't know what's going on at Red Bull. Um,
No, and they seem to be kind of hungry for him. So,
and he's in the lead of F2. Like he's leading the driver standings. If he
mm,
does win, especially if he were to pull away the rest of the season, like when I don't know if I see him winning the rest, at least every feature race. But if he can at least podium and secure that lead and secure his spot as number one in the F2 driver standings, depending on what the rest of especially Racing Bulls and Red Bull do, he could make his case to maybe get that seat in F1. Especially because only one of the seats is, or two of the seats, I would say, are secure. We have Yuki's seat and we have Max's seat.
yeah, well, like you say there, Max Verstappen is locked in through the end of 2028, sorry about that. So he is locked in throughout the new regulations. What will be fun to follow is uh, the silly season for 2027. I know very early to say that now, but as it stands, a lot of the drivers have contracts throughout 2027 in F1. So,
Well, unless there's anything else, I think that wraps up our F2 discussion for Spa 2024.
yeah.
Um,
Well, like we have said, feel free to drop any mistakes or any changes in socials or in the pit lane. And hopefully, this was enjoyable to listen to.
um, so we will be back shortly for a discussion of F1, but thank you and have a good rest of your day whenever you guys decide to listen to.
We will talk to you soon.